So now moving on to our next brilliant speaker, it's Dominic Schaffer, who's Marketing Manager at EMEA at Highspot. And the title is Coffee is for Closers. Close the gap between sales and marketing and get our coffee. Let's find out exactly what that means. Over to you.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name is Dom, Marketing Manager for EMEA at Highspot. Little heads up for anyone joining. This session is actually not about coffee, so apologize if the title is a bit misleading. But if you want to hear about closing the gap between marketing and sales, then I hope it can help you out a little bit. So what do I actually mean by gap? Sales and marketing too often work in silos, focusing on their own operations instead of collaborating across teams. A classic scenario we're probably all too familiar with is, for marketing, it's all about generating leads, while sales wants to close deals. The sales team repeatedly complains about low quality leads and disqualifies many of them straight away, while marketing is getting frustrated that sales is not following up on their hard-earned leads. But another area of misalignment between marketing and sales that I want to talk about today that might not be immediately obvious to everyone is content. And for that, I want to share only two numbers with you. I'm pretty sure you've heard loads of numbers over the last 2 days, but I want you to remember these two numbers, which is 65% and 40%. 65% of content created by marketing is actually never used by sales. So as a content marketer, for instance, imagine you're creating, let's say, 3 ebooks, and you take one of them and throw it out straight away without anyone ever touching it, anyone ever using it. Meanwhile, ironically, sellers waste up to 40% of their time searching for or even creating their own content. So basically, what these two numbers show is a massive disconnect between many sales and marketing organizations, resulting in a significant waste of time and resources for both of them, really. So what can you do to tackle that problem? For that, I want to look at 3 main parts that are essential to collaborating effectively across teams. And the first one is have common goals and strategies. So to make sure that your teams are moving in the same direction, you obviously need to agree on where you're going in the first place. The problem often is that, as stated earlier, that marketing and sales are too focused on their own operations and start developing their own individual strategies. And too often, those strategies just don't link up. Sales and marketing leaders should instead come together as a team to understand where the market stands, what your buyers need, and so on and so forth. The beauty in that is that both teams will be able to offer unique perspectives on that. Marketing can provide insights from their campaigns that they're running. Sales has input from their engagements with their customers. And those are insights that they can both use to, for example, create personas they want to target together and decide how to target those personas together. So let's go back to those two numbers from earlier. 65% of marketing content unused by sales. Meanwhile, 40% of sales time wasted looking for or creating content. One of the reasons for that is that a lot of content is just considered not useful. But by working together, marketing will get the insights they need to create the content that sales requires. And in turn, they can provide sales with the proper guidance and visibility they need to use that content as effectively as possible. Which brings me to number 2, establish processes. So when you have all your goals and strategies figured out, it's important not just to run off into different directions again and do your own thing. You need to commit to processes. Agree on roles and responsibilities in the projects that you're running. Involve stakeholders from both teams and maybe even establish project-specific crews. Also set expectations for outcomes of your projects and timelines. That way you can create both visibility and accountability. all essential parts of project management, you might think, but too often it's just not done. And that basically brings me to number 3. And of course, as with everything else in life, communication is key. So again, I really want you to remember those numbers. Let's get back to those 2 numbers from the beginning. Also for anyone who might have just joined the session, 65% of marketing content unused by sales, 40% of sales time wasted looking for or creating it. Another contributing factor here, besides content not being useful, is content not being found in the first place. So I'm sure many of you can relate to that feeling of needing that one PDF or that one slide deck that's somewhere out there, but you can't find it. So you end up creating something yourself, or equally as bad, if not even worse, you just find an outdated version somewhere else and just go with that. So basically, centralize your communication between teams and make sure to let your teams know where they can find news, updates, and content. Because this way, no matter how large your teams are, salespeople and marketers both will be kept in the loop and they know where to find what they need. So basically, to summarize, establish common goals and strategies. Make sure your teams are heading in the same direction. How do you do that? By establishing processes to make sure that those goals are acted on and to create visibility and accountability. And how do you do that? By communicating across team boundaries to make sure everything is on track. And that's it for me. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, now is the time, or reach out to me at any time. And go get yourself a nice cup of coffee.
Thank you so much. Great talk. Shocking figure, 65% of content wasted. Yeah. So question here, we've got time for one question. I think, no, maybe we've got time for more. From Josiah, who says the same thing. 65% of content wasted. Surely that's a failure of leadership. Does this direction need to come from the top?
Yeah, I would say communication and collaboration across team boundaries should always start from the top. It should always be on a leadership level where it starts, and then on an operational day-to-day basis, obviously the cooperation starts within the teams themselves. But I would say in order to set it all up and get it all going, the initiative needs to come from the leadership level for sure.
Excellent. A question from Darcy. She asks, we're always told that the best content is not salesy, and that's in inverted commas. So surely the marketing team need to be the ones in charge of this sort of content, not the sales team?
Well, it depends. I suppose both parts can really contribute their own unique perspectives on it, because it also always depends a little bit on the context you need the content for, and that brings it around to targeting your content to specific parts of the buyer journey. I would say, especially top of the funnel content should be very non-salesy and very much thought leadership content that should pique your audience's interest. And then later on, when it actually comes down to the nitty-gritty sales part of things, then you need a bit more salesy content. I would argue you need a bit of both, but you can't just slap people in the face right out of the gate with salesy content. I think that's just not really getting you anywhere.
Great answer. We're out of time. Thank you so much. That was a great talk and great question answering. Thank you.